to give you some background on the work that Kira and I did, I would love to do a case study with you. And actually, this case study is about my real life experience in a leadership role. So as many of you are probably aware, historically, most nurses move into leadership roles based on clinical expertise and the number of years that they've actually been in the profession. And this is exactly how my leadership journey started. So while I interviewed for the clinical manager role in the nephrology clinic, I'd have to say that most of the questions that the providers asked me and the staff asked me had very little to do with my leadership style, my leadership experience, or even my leadership experience. So many of the providers that I worked with and most of the staff that were in the nephrology clinic had worked with me in the ICU setting. And I think one of the things they knew about me is I worked hard, that they enjoyed working with me. And so I will always believe that I got the position as clinical manager because I was a clinical expert. So I would love to say that I quickly came to realize that flaw in thinking that expertise, clinical expertise especially, equates to leadership expertise. So I did struggle for several years trying to develop my leadership skill and style. So at the time I became a leader, my orientation consisted of actually a paper that was handed to me that had tasks listed on it that I needed to complete. So some of the tasks I had to complete was to find my office and actually find the keys to my office, order some business cards, change my phone greeting, set up my computer, might want to actually go out and meet the team, and then orient with the clinic RNs to understand their flow and ultimately be ready to step into staffing if that was required. So I have to say, not long after I completed that checklist, budget time came around, and I needed to, number one, forecast how many visits we expected for the next year and how many visits each provider, which there were 4 of them, how many visits would each of them have to complete in order to meet that or exceed that forecast. So I remember I just sat at my desk thinking, where do I go from here? And who can I call to help me? So I called my finance person and told them that I didn't quite understand how to do this. And he said to me, didn't you get my email? Just use the formula that I sent you and forecast those numbers. Well, I didn't want to let on that I didn't know what he was talking about. So I hung up the phone. And again, I thought, where do I go from here? And who can help me? Because I had absolutely zero business wisdom. But I can tell you, I took a lot of pride in that I could certainly save a life if I needed to. And it was also at this time, I had a low performing employee who was actually a bully as well and needed to be terminated. I think I had been in my role for approximately 3 months. So the same questions came up. Where do I go from here? Who can I call to help me? I had never had to terminate anyone before. So for the first 2 years as a manager, I really did feel like a fraud. And I was nervous for the day that all my staff would find out that I didn't really know what I was doing. But again, people were still saying I was a great ICU nurse. So now we want to talk a little bit about how did this work around leadership competencies actually evolve? So when I moved into my clinical education specialist role in early 2014, I was asked to formally create competencies and an orientation for newly hired clinical managers in the ambulatory division. So I was provided, once again, a document that listed all the tasks that needed to get done to get a new manager started in their role. This was a list that was created by other managers that had been in the role. Additionally, my director actually requested that I take that list and put it into the new competency format that the organization just implemented, which is a format that Kira actually created. So I took that list and this is what was on it. Get keys made for the manager's office. At this time, also get it for the storeroom as well. Make sure the manager has a computer. Introduce the managers to other managers, maybe set up some shadow experiences. Start the email account, get them their contact lists. Start making sure, or start having them put their leadership meetings on their calendar. Give them access to the manager portal because they may need to hire someone. So that was just a very small snippet of the list that was given to me. But as you can see, it was basically the same list I received as a manager 9 years before. So now as I was in this education specialist role, and because I was a former clinical manager, I immediately knew that this list did not equate to leader competency or development. So again, I was reliving my old leadership experience, and I knew that I wanted to create something that would help a new leader navigate more smoothly and successfully through their leadership journey.